I never imagined that a simple Thursday evening would become the day my entire marriage unraveled. Emily stood in front of the hallway mirror, adjusting her earrings with unusual care. She smiled when she noticed me watching, but quickly looked away. "It's just dinner with an old college friend," she said casually while grabbing her purse. I nodded, pretending not to notice the expensive perfume she rarely wore anymore. We'd been married for 8 years, and I had learned that sometimes the smallest changes said the most. As she kissed my cheek and walked out the door, a strange feeling settled in my stomach that refused to leave. At first, I tried convincing myself I was simply overthinking. Emily had always been friendly, and meeting old friends wasn't unusual. Still, something didn't feel right. During dinner, I sent her a quick text asking if everything was going well. 20 minutes passed before she replied with only 3 words. "Everything is fine." No heart emoji. No smiley face. Just cold, empty words. That wasn't like her. She usually sent photos of her meals or joked about awkward reunions. This silence felt different. It felt carefully planned, as if she was making sure she revealed as little as possible. Around 9 that night, my phone buzzed. It wasn't Emily. It was my younger sister, Rachel. She had accidentally spotted Emily entering one of the city's most exclusive rooftop restaurants. "I thought you two were having date night," Rachel texted. She wasn't alone. My pulse instantly quickened. I asked who she was with, but Rachel replied that she only caught a glimpse of a tall man in a navy suit before the elevator doors closed. She apologized if she had misunderstood, but the damage was already done. My mind filled every empty space with questions I couldn't answer. Instead of confronting Emily immediately, I made a decision that surprised even me. I called an old friend, Daniel. Years earlier, Daniel had worked as a private investigator before starting his own security consulting business. More importantly, he was someone Emily had never met. When I explained the situation, he agreed to help without asking many questions. "If there's nothing to hide," he told me, "you'll sleep better tonight. If there is, you'll know exactly what you're dealing with." Those words echoed in my mind as we drove toward the restaurant together. The rooftop restaurant overlooked the glittering skyline, filled with couples celebrating anniversaries and executives closing million-dollar deals. Daniel and I entered separately to avoid attracting attention. From across the room, I spotted Emily almost immediately. She wasn't sitting with an elderly college friend, as I had imagined. Across from her sat a confident-looking man around our age, laughing as he poured wine into her glass. Emily leaned forward, smiling in a way I hadn't seen directed at me for months. Every instinct inside me screamed to walk over, but Daniel placed a hand on my shoulder and quietly whispered, "Not yet." Instead, Daniel motioned toward the restaurant manager, someone he apparently knew from previous security contracts. A few discreet conversations later, the manager quietly confirmed something unexpected. The reservation hadn't been made under Emily's name or the man's. It had been booked under a corporate account belonging to a company neither of us recognized. Even stranger, the reservation included a private conference suite after dinner. Why would 2 old friends need a private business suite? My confusion slowly transformed into suspicion, but I still didn't approve of anything beyond an unusual dinner. Then everything changed. The elevator doors opened behind me, and an older gentleman stepped onto the rooftop. The moment Emily looked past my shoulder and saw him standing there, every ounce of color disappeared from her face. Her smile vanished instantly. The man wasn't looking at her. He was searching the room until his eyes landed on the man sitting across from my wife. Suddenly, the stranger stood up so quickly that his chair nearly fell over. Emily looked trapped between panic and disbelief. I slowly turned around, realizing I had absolutely no idea who the older man was. But judging by Emily's terrified expression, she knew exactly why he was there. The older gentleman walked across the restaurant with calm confidence. Every conversation around us seemed to fade into silence. He stopped directly beside Emily's table and looked first at the man in the navy suit before turning to my wife. "I didn't expect to find both of you here," he said in a steady voice. Emily couldn't even answer. The stranger beside her lowered his head, clearly nervous for the first time that evening. Before anyone else could speak, The older man introduced himself to me. "I'm Richard Collins, chairman of Collins Financial Group." My heart skipped a beat. The company name matched the corporate account that had reserved the table and the private conference room. Richard invited all of us into the reserved conference suite, saying it was time for everyone to hear the truth. Inside the room, he placed a thick folder on the table. The man sitting beside Emily was introduced as Jason Collins, Richard's only son and the company's future CEO. Emily finally broke her silence. She admitted that she had met Jason months earlier during a leadership seminar. Jason had secretly offered her an executive position at Collins Financial, but Richard had strict policies against hiring relatives or people involved in personal relationships with company executives. To avoid rumors, Jason suggested they keep every meeting private until the hiring process was complete. Emily believed secrecy was the only way to protect the opportunity. She knew how suspicious it looked, yet she convinced herself she would explain everything once the contract was signed. Richard slowly opened the folder and slid several documents across the table. "If this had only been about a job," he said, "I wouldn't be standing here." The papers revealed something far more serious. Jason had secretly approved millions of dollars in unauthorized business transfers over the past year, disguising them as consulting expenses. Emily's name appeared on several project proposals, not because she was involved in a fraud, but because Jason intended to appoint her as project director after the money had already disappeared. Without realizing it, she was about to become the public face of a financial scandal. Emily stared at the documents in disbelief, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the pages. Jason finally confessed. He admitted that he never planned to tell Emily about the missing money until after she officially joined the company. If investigators questioned the transactions, she would unknowingly appear responsible because every project would carry her signature. He insisted he had developed genuine feelings for her over time, but Richard immediately cut him off. "Real feelings don't involve sacrificing someone else's future," he said sharply. The room fell silent. Emily looked at me with tears forming in her eyes. Not because she had been caught cheating, but because she finally realized how close she had come to destroying both our lives by trusting the wrong person. Police officers entered the conference suite only minutes later. Richard had been working with financial investigators for weeks, quietly gathering evidence against his own son. Jason was arrested without resistance. As he was escorted away, he glanced back at Emily and whispered, "I never wanted it to end like this." She didn't respond. She simply looked down at the engagement ring I had placed on her finger 8 years earlier. For the first time that evening, I saw genuine regret in her eyes, not for attending the dinner itself, but for allowing secrecy to replace honesty in our marriage. The drive home was painfully quiet. Emily finally admitted that she had hidden every meeting because she feared I would misunderstand her relationship with Jason before she could reveal the surprise job offer. Instead, every lie forced another lie until the truth became impossible to explain. I admitted that I should have spoken to her honestly the moment my doubts began instead of letting suspicion grow in silence. Trust, I realize, isn't destroyed by one mistake alone. It's slowly weakened by every conversation that never happens. We agreed that rebuilding our marriage would take time, painful honesty, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths together. Months later, the investigation made national headlines. Jason received a lengthy prison sentence for corporate fraud, while Richard publicly cleared Emily's name after proving she had never known about the illegal transfers. Emily declined every future offer connected to Collins Financial and accepted a position at another company where transparency was valued above ambition. As for us, our marriage survived, not because nothing happened, but because we finally understood that secrets, even well-intentioned ones, can become far more dangerous than the truth. Whenever people ask how we overcame the darkest chapter of our lives, I remember that moment in the restaurant, the instant Emily looked past me and saw Richard standing there. Sometimes, the person who exposes a lie isn't an enemy at all. Sometimes, they're the only reason the truth survives.